Okay, well, hello everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Um, just need to check and see if the mic's working, and hopefully we can get started. If you can let me know in the chat if it's working or not, that'd be great. And then we can move along from there. If you've got coffee, that's great. I've got a little glass of wine just while we go along. And see how we going. Great, thanks, Sinistrate. That's great. Okay, just way of introduction. Oh, Cagney, no sound for you. Should be coming along. If you might have to unmute the stream and Twitch, but it should be coming through. It's just the microphone at the moment. Once we get into AirHauler and explain, obviously there'll be a bit more audio. I'll turn it up a little bit, splash, and you can see if that works. Okay, I'll turn it up to the max. How's that? That seems to be better. I can talk louder as well, if that works better. That working okay? Okay, right. Thanks, Rob. It's good to know. Perfect. Thanks, this game. Right, just by way of introduction, I'm Slopey, Duncan Murray, developer of AirHauler. I thought it might be fun just to start a new company, play a little bit. We'll maybe do a couple of jobs in a Cessna and X-Plane, just short ones, because we don't want to spend all our time sitting in an X-Plane. And if you have any questions, things like that, feel free to post in the chat. I'll try and get around to them. I don't stream very often, virtually never actually, so this will be a bit of a learning experience. If it doesn't work or it drops out, we'll try and get it back working again. Otherwise, we'll just see how we get on. Hopefully the stream will hold up, hopefully the bandwidth will hold up, and my son won't steal it all to play MechWarrior or something like that. Anyway, okay, let's get started. We'll jump into AirHauler, create a new company, and we'll go and look for some jobs, and we can fly a quick one in X-Plane. Yeah. So if I just pop us over to there, and I should be down in the bottom right in the cunning little GPS window. I'll probably move it over to the left and when we start flying, because it's in the wrong place probably for the instrument panel and things like that. Flying wise, today I've got my Cytec yoke, which is just down here. I've got some Cytec throttles there, rudder pedals underneath. We're just going to be using stock X-Plane. It does have a scenery pack for Dundee and Cardiff, because I was testing that for someone else who couldn't get it to work. Thanks very much, but that's so we're going to use Dundee probably because it's a nice little airport, and we'll have ActiveSky on as well, just for a bit of variety for weather, but not Traffic Global because it was using too much power up on my PC when I was trying to stream as well. Hello, Uncle Joe. Hi, everyone else. So, okay, here's the AirHauler interface. Obviously, I've already got a couple of companies set up. We're going to set a new one up. Here's my Slopey XP, and I've got another one as well, which is a slush fund, which is an easy mode company that I sold the aircraft on, so it's got loads of cash. So if we need to jump in and buy something, we can do it that way as well. I'm going to create a new company just now, so you can see, if you don't have AirHauler, you can see how that works. Obviously, this is for the X-Plane version, but it works the same for FSX P3D as well. P3.5 as well is supported. Just set it to 4.5. It'll work. That'll be patched out just very shortly. So first up, X-Plane 11. We've got to set the path to our browser. Not browser, to our X-Plane using the browse button. Mine happens to be on my SSD drive, E X-Plane, so we can pick that there. And that'll just let AirHauler know where our X-Plane's located. If we click on next on the wizard, we get to put in our company name, so we can call this Slope Air Livestream, for example. Pilot handle, well that's me, that's Slopey. And I'll put my name, proper name, Sunday name in the bottom, which is Duncan. So that just sets up my little pilot. That appears on radar information. Your name doesn't really appear very much, but your pilot handle does get pushed to the radar when you're looking at it on the AH2.com website, the AirHauler2.com website, or in-game on the radar up at the top here, which you'll see in just a minute. Okay, if we go in and choose our difficulty, I don't want to pick too hard one. I'm going to fly the 172 today, just because it's nice and easy, but I am going to start easy because that gets me 60% reputation. And your company reputation determines what you can do inside AirHauler as regards add-ons, hiring pilots, things like that. So if we want to buy a couple more aircraft, get a few pilots on board and set them off doing jobs for us, then we can do that with a higher reputation. Again, if you want to make it more difficult, you can go down through hard and career. You get less money, lower starting reputation. So at 20%, you're going to have to work your way up to at least 40 or 50 before you'll be able to unlock a lot of the other things you can do. Nomad right down at the bottom. This is a special mode that we added quite a while back at request of some of the hardcore users. And this means that you cannot have bases in the game. You can only have aircraft. And it's designed for you getting in one aircraft and just bouncing around between airport to airport to airport, picking up jobs to see what you can come up with, but never really settling down in a base and building an empire from there. It's just flying around, picking up whatever you can find. So we'll put it on easy, but what I'm going to do is I'm immediately going to sell the aircraft here in exchange for about $1 million instead. I don't want the King Air, I want a 172, so I'll sell the King Air right now, and that'll give me £1 million to go and buy a shiny new Cessna 172 with. Let's do that. Okay, so now I get to pick my starting location for my first base. It's focused in on London at the moment, but we can zoom out. All the red dots are airports that I can start at. Obviously, I want to start at Dundee because I have some scenery there, which isn't showing up actually, so we'll just search for it. We can choose airport and search for Dundee, or EGPN as it is in the ICAO reference. Use selected. There we go. And here's Dundee. Nice little airports right on the side of the River Tay, 17 feet above sea level. It's got a nice long runway, 2702, and it does have lights, so we can see what facilities we've got. We don't have ILS and things like that here. There is an NDB approach if you're that way inclined and you want to hand fly it, or let the autopilot fly it, one of the two. But this will do perfectly fine for what we're going to do today, because we're just going to be doing VFR. If it gets a little bit dark, we can always set it back to a brighter time as well, in case we pick an airfield which doesn't have lights, which happens quite a little bit. So important when you're flying an AirHauler, always check your destination, especially if it's evening time. Make sure it has lights, otherwise it can be difficult to find. Anyway, we've got our base set up, we've got our difficulty level. We're not going to take the aircraft, we're going to sell it, so we can go on to the next step. And this section just lets you decide what kind of jobs you want AirHauler to come up with. Now, it's not specific, it won't always give you these things, but it guides it in the right way. And AirHauler is kind of client-centric in that it's the clients who have cargo they want moved rather than your aircraft. So you will get jobs which are too big for your aircraft or require multiple trips. It's perfectly feasible. You'll get jobs you can't do, that you just can't complete in the time, or you just don't have the aircraft to do. That's all normal inside AirHauler. It's not the kind of thing where you'll always be given something you can always do. There's always that element of risk that you could take something that you can't actually complete. So we're just going to edit this a little bit. Out of the box, it's usually fine. And I'd recommend that you start, if I move my wine out of the way a little bit, I recommend that you just start it with the initial settings and see how you go. And if you don't like it, start a new company. You can alter these at any time through the options section. However, you should know that it's not an instant regeneration. So if you change them, you'll have to wait for some of the other jobs to expire before they're regenerated back more appropriately. Yeah. So it won't refresh them and drop them back in, because then you could just keep chopping and changing as much as you wanted, which isn't really the idea. So but over time, it will come more back to the values you set here. Today, I want more jobs than usual, because it'd be nice to get one that we can do on the stream. Distance will turn down a little bit because we want short flights. Don't want you guys to be sitting watching me in the cruise. Or we will use accelerated terrain today just to make it easier. We're going to go for smaller jobs as well, so we don't have to carry quite as much, get less chance of split loads. Internal jobs here, this is really base to base jobs. So once you have more than 2 bases or 2 or more bases, you can modify the percentage of jobs generated between the 2 bases. So if it's over here, you'll get more jobs between bases. If it's over here, you'll get less. Yeah. So yeah, take 6, they do make quite a big difference to the generation. It will be a little time before you see the results show up, but you will definitely notice it. So once you've got more bases, you can have more base-to-base jobs. Note that for base-to-base jobs, you get less reputation because those are seen as internal transfers. You don't get the full reputation value of doing a cargo job for an external client. Down at the bottom, airport size. Do you want to fly into smaller strips or larger international airports? If you're focused on heavies and big tin, then you want it up at the larger size to stop getting the mum and pop shops down the bottom. If you're bush flying it, then you want to put it down near the smaller ones. But I'll put it about halfway here, and that should do it. Okay, so now we've got that all set up, we're ready to go. We won't get any jobs just initially straight out the bat because we don't have an aircraft, so I'll have to buy an aircraft, and then we'll get the jobs to show up for it. Well, we will get a few, but not kind of tailored to the aircraft that we buy. So let's click on next. There we go, we're ready to go, as the wizard says. We'd usually have to do a type rating as well. Because I've already done the type rating, again, didn't want to take up loads of time on the stream with the type rating. We'll skip that, but basically once you've bought an aircraft, the first time you fly it, you have to do a little type rating test, which basically climb to an altitude, maintain that altitude, turn onto a heading. There's 3 of those at different altitudes and headings, and then return back to the airport and land with a rating of OK or better. And that gets you your type rating for that aircraft. Once you've done it in one company, it applies to all the companies in your AirHauler installation. So you don't have to do it again and again and again. You only just need to do it once for every aircraft, and you're good to go. Right. So click on finish, and AirHauler will go and set our company up for us. Off we go. Okay, there we are. So a little message over here. So new humanitarian missions are available. That's just popped up. From time to time, you'll see humanitarian missions appear, which are populated on the back-end server. They mirror real-world events. So if there's a disaster going on somewhere, there's usually a humanitarian mission that'll pop up for it. For humanitarian missions, you can deliver emergency cargo, supplies, medical supplies, housing, that kind of thing. You don't get paid for it, but you get a lot of reputation for it. So if you need a quick way to build up your rep, then you can take on humanitarian aid missions, and just gives you a nice bonus. The upshot for that is you don't get paid, but these things aren't too expensive to manufacture and ship anyway. AirHauler is telling us we have no aircraft in our fleet. We need to purchase one from the marketplace. It's fair enough. That's because I didn't take the starter aircraft with the first, with my game scenario for easy. I didn't take the Baron, so we need to go and buy a Cessna. So let's do that first, and then we can work it out from there. Yeah. And I'm just going to move myself over to the other side because I'll be in the way of the buy button. So move over here, and we can buy aircraft from our marketplace. And there's 2 different places to buy that. We can get it from the aircraft marketplace here, which is new aircraft, or we can look at the second-hand market and see what's available. We'll have a quick look in there, but I'm going to buy a new one because I've got pots of cash. So no point trying to buy a second-hand piece of junk, shall we say. So we can have a look at the information here. You can see the aircraft that are for sale. So there's a 172. It's 80% condition, so it needs a little bit of a fixer up. It's reasonably cheap. It's 191,000, 192,000. Okay, and it's currently here, ENFG. So I'd have to go and get it. It's up in Norway. So with aircraft that you buy from the second-hand market, you can go and get them if you want and fly them back to your base, or you can have it delivered to you for a fee. Which you can do if you want. It takes a little bit of time, but you can get it shipped over. Synastry for the humanitarian missions, which we'll have a look at in just a minute. I'll show you once we bought an aircraft and get into the job screen, I'll give you a quick look. Basically, they're always active. You don't have to accept them. You just need to offload the required commodity at the right place, and the agencies will take it off you. So you don't need to explicitly accept them. Okay, so we can have a look here. There's a few other ones that are around. There's a 172 there. Again, where's this one at? This is on the other side of the Mexico. It's quite cheap, 141,000, but it does need a lot of fixing up. It's 59% condition, and that's not ideal. So I think we'll just go and buy a new one. So rather than use the second-hand market, I can put it away here. I can leave it open. We're going to use the aircraft marketplace here. And these are all of the aircraft that X-Plane knows about. Yep, Marcella, we'll do passenger jobs just in a minute. In fact, this is quite interesting when we buy this aircraft. You'll notice here all of these are the standard X-plane aircraft, aside from the Aero Commander, which I imported earlier. I'm actually going to remove that so I can show you how to import one in just a little minute. So let's just delete that aircraft. There we go. Oh, actually, I'm owning one in a different company, so I can't. But I'll show you how to import it later. So if we go back to our buy, lease, new aircraft, these are all the aircraft available for sale, which are basically all the aircraft you've imported inside AirHauler 2 from X-plane. All of the defaults are there when you start if you've not imported any, but you can import your own as well. So we're going to buy a Cessna 172. I'm going to go with the steam gauge one. I don't like the glass cockpit. I don't need floats, so I can just buy one here. No problem. Take6, yeah, the sorting. Take6 very kindly pointed out that the max packs in the range wasn't sorting correctly. If you click on the top of the columns, you can sort them appropriately, and it was sorting in alpha instead of numerical, so that's fixed now. So here we go, 172, and we're going to buy it. So we can buy or lease it. If we lease the aircraft, we pay an upfront initial deposit, then a monthly rental, which is good if you're strapped for cash. You can get a new aircraft, but you will have that monthly payment. We're not going to lease it, we'll just buy it outright because we've got enough money. We've got 3 million down in the bottom left here, which you can't see because I'm in front of it, but in the bottom left corner, which you'll see in a second, we've got 3 million there. So we'll buy this aircraft for 239,000. I'll just move back over here actually, and there we go. So once we say we're going to buy the aircraft, AirHauler will ask us if it's part of our personal or our company fleet. So you've got two options here. You can actually buy it for your company in the normal fashion, or you can put it to your personal fleet. Now inside your personal fleet, you can fly any of those aircraft and use them for any job or mission or PAX flight inside AirHauler, but your AI pilots and VA pilots can't access them. They're only for you. Yeah, so it's just a little way to build up your own private collection, you know. If you think about, you know, Joe from Buffalo Airways, and he's got a few little planes that he poodles around in, but the company don't fly. It's much like that. So if you have an aircraft that you like, you can keep it in your private collection or collect aircraft, but it isn't used by your company per se. This is a company purchase. We're going to need this one. And then we get to choose if we're going to have a passenger configuration or cargo here. Now a little note on this one. It's always better to take passenger configuration, because if you take cargo, you can never then put passengers on it unless you change the configuration and refit it, i.e. fit seats into it. So if you take the passenger one, you'll lose a little bit of takeoff space, or MTOW, maximum takeoff weight, or a little bit of capacity. So you won't lose much takeoff weight, but you'll lose a little capacity because it has seats fitted. But it means you can do PAX and cargo jobs with the same aircraft. If you go with cargo, you can't load passengers on them unless you actually fit some seats. So always best to go passenger, unless you just want to have a pure cargo hauler, and that makes things easy sorting wise if you've got a lot of aircraft in your fleet. So we'll go for passenger and stick that in. Okay, so we're going to get this delivered to a base. We've only got one base at the moment, EGPN in Dundee, so we're going to use that one. And there's our purchase completed. So we now have an aircraft. Now, because there's a passenger configuration aircraft, we can configure the type of seats on it. So there are up to 4 classes where you can have economy only, you can have economy and premium, economy premium business for first, and you can split the ratios of how many seats you have for each. This is important when you're doing PAX flights and you want to have different ticket pricing for the different seats. Obviously, this is a Cessna, so it's only got 3 seats plus me, so we're just going to have economy, and we're going to set all 3 to economy seats. There's not really enough space for first or business. It's not really premium. It's, you know, it's a Cessna. So we'll just go for economy. If it was a larger aircraft, it would have a boarding time. So when you're in the sim waiting for PAX to board, if you start early, you've got to wait for the PAX to get on board. But this is, again, it's a Cessna, 3 seats. They can all jump in the back nice and quick. No issues there. So let's do that. And that gets our plane on. We also got an achievement there. It started on the wrong side of the screen, but we've got our first hull. We bought our first aircraft. So you do get achievements for things as you go through AirHauler as well, like, you know, completing a cargo job, completing PAX missions, getting paid, having money in the bank, those kind of things you get individual achievements for. Right, we've got an aircraft now, so we can go back to company information up the top and look at our fleet. And here's our Cessna 172. It's in 100% condition. It's parked in currently in EGPN in Dundee. There we are. We can see it's got a range of 500 miles, cargo capacity about 416, and fuel capacity of 350, and it's got about 222 on board. The less fuel you put in, the more cargo space you have, so you can use that to fit more cargo on. If you can fly with less fuel, you can take some out, offload it, and get more cargo in, which we'll hopefully see in a minute if we find a right-sized job. You can also overload the plane slightly to about 10% of the maximum takeoff weight. Bear in mind that will change the flight dynamics of the aircraft. You might not want to do that, but you can do it if you're just 20 or 30 pounds short of getting the full job on board. You can overload it slightly. On the right hand side here, we've got our maintenance. Our condition is 100%. I'm sure after I've flown it and we bounce it off the tarmac a couple of times, it'll be less, but we'll see how we get on. And also, every aircraft has a check regime. So every 50 hours, it's going to need an A check. Every 100 hours, it'll need a B. Every 300 hours, it needs a C check. They are incremental, or they roll together. So if you need an A check, but you've only got 3 hours left to go on your B check, just do the B and that will include an A. So the C includes the B and the B includes the A. So watch for that. Don't do a B check and then an A check 10 hours later. It just costs you money. Okay, and we currently don't have any insurance on this. We can buy insurance. So if we do have a big repair bill, we can use insurance to offset it, but we won't bother with that for now. We'll just crack on and fly it. There's nothing on board at the moment. On here we can see what's on board. There's no passengers on board, no cargo, and there's our details with a nice little picture. So let's go and find a job for this Cessna, and then we'll go and fly it somewhere. So jobs are in the cunningly named cargo jobs and passenger route section, top left here. Along the top, we've got our various functions. Our overview map gives us an overview of all of the AirHauler world, if you like. So at the moment, we've selected EGPN. It's airport based, so you pick the airport you're interested in looking at, and you can see what is going to and from that. So all of these lines coming out of EGPN are jobs. So we can see here, these are all the cargo jobs we have. They're listed on the left-hand side here. If we select one of them, it'll go red, so we can see which one we're looking at. For example, the one to EGPF looks quite good, so we can fly this little job. That's straight into Glasgow. Glasgow's a nice big international airport, so we won't have a problem finding that or getting there. So I think we'll do that one first. We can also select from the top right here, we can draw airports to see other airports that are around, and we can also draw missions. We don't have any missions currently. We'll get some when we start flying around, but missions are provided by NPCs, people that you bump into at airports, and they're going to be looking for commodities. They want to buy commodities, or they want something transferred, like a courier mission, that kind of thing. So you'll see them as you start flying around. If you get into factories and production and start making commodities, then you supply those at the moment for tier 2 and 3 commodities when you've produced them to missions. Missions are the only outlet for those commodities at the moment, but I'm going to be adding the ability to sell tier 2 and 3 commodities in various places around the world in due course, so there will be somewhere for you to sell them. So let's get going. Let's go and take this job first. Here's our cargo job. Just while we're here, along the top, we've got our overview map. This is what we're in at the moment. Available jobs shows you all of the available jobs currently inside AirHauler, regardless of which airport you're looking at. It draws them all out. Just a quick way to find one if you're looking for something interesting. Accepted jobs will show you jobs that you said you'll do. We've not picked one yet, but we're about to. So we'll see when we pick our little job over to Glasgow, it'll appear in this accepted jobs. Routes and ad hoc flight, these are PAX operations. After we do a cargo flight, I'll come back and I'll show you the routes and the ad hoc flight. We'll buy another Cessna for this, get a couple of AI pilots on board, and we can set them up with a route. And then again, missions. As we fly around the world, we'll discover missions. These are all the missions that will be available to us, accepted. And then humanitarian, which Sinastri was asking about earlier. These are current humanitarian missions that are running. So there's one in London at the moment, in Heathrow. They're looking for emergency medical supplies. Doesn't have long to run. We've made another 2-3 weeks because we're almost getting out of lockdown over here. But basically, if you land in London, in Heathrow with emergency medical supplies and offload those will be credited towards the humanitarian mission there, you know. And you can keep doing those until they don't take any more. You'll be told when they've got enough, and you can just accept them there. A thing to note with humanitarian missions, usually airports which have a humanitarian mission going on, there's one in Madrid, there's one in Paris as well, although they've come out of lockdown, so that was a little bit optimistic on my part. The commodity market won't be functioning in those airports and probably for a distance around them, because it assumes there's been a bit of a worldwide disaster or a disaster in the locality that people aren't concentrating on normal trade. Commodities are available on the left hand side here for commodity stocks. Now, there isn't a commodity market at Dundee because it's not a big enough airport, but when we get over to Glasgow, we'll be able to pick up some commodities and bring them back to Dundee. And that's a good way of making money. If you don't get a return flight, and you probably may not, then you can always buy some commodities, take them somewhere else, back to your home base and sell them there for a profit. So we can do that when we get back. So let's pick up this computer games flight. We'll do it. We'll get X-Plane up and running and see how we get on. While we're doing that, we can have a little look in the chat. If you've got any questions while we're in the cruise, feel free to stick them on. But let's get set up and going, and then we'll get onto that. So I'm going to accept this job. I could do fly now and just fly it straight away, or I can do accept. It'll ask me if I want to accept. I can say yes. Now this is quite a big one actually. It's 876, so I might not fit it all in, but we'll try. So once you've accepted it, it goes green, so we know we've accepted that job, and you'll see it's appeared in accepted jobs up the top here as well. So here's the job we've got to do, 876. Now it's not far from Dundee to Glasgow. We can see there the distance, 59 nautical miles, so I don't need a lot of fuel, so I might be able to shoehorn all the cargo in. If we look at Glasgow, obviously Glasgow International Airport, loads of lovely runways. The wind in the UK, we'll check with ActiveSky when we get going from the ATIS, but it has been pretty much from the the west the entire time, westerly wind, so we're probably going to end up on 2-3, I think, but we'll see when we get over there. So from here, we can select it and click Fly Now, and this will just tell AirHauler that we want to fly this job. We don't have to do it like this. We could also go into the fleet and say that we're going to fly this aircraft ourselves and then load cargo on it and tell them we're going to go to Glasgow. But from our accepted jobs, we can just go Fly Now. AirHauler is going to ask us what aircraft we want. Well, we're going to use our 172. It's got 487 cargo capacity, so we'll see how we get on there. But if we unload a load of fuel, we might manage it. Otherwise, I might have to do 2 trips or maybe just do half. We'll see how we get on. So we're going to use this one. You'll see I'm type rated on this aircraft. If you're not type rated, it doesn't appear. So make sure to get type ratings for aircraft that you haven't flown previously in AirHauler. So once we've selected the aircraft, we get to the cargo loading screen. Now this is one of the key screens in AirHauler. You'll spend a lot of time here because this is how we get stuff to and from the aircraft and out back to our airport. Obviously, see here on the left hand side, cargo available to load is our computer game, so our forwarding agents got the cargo ready to go for us, nicely palletized, wrapped up, whatever they need to do for it. We've got no passengers or luggage at the moment because it's not a PAX flight. It's just a cargo flight we're going to do today. So we need to get our computer games on board. Now you'll see here available capacity 614, so we don't have enough for 876, but we do have loads of fuel, which gives us an estimated range of 320, let's say, nautical miles. I only need 59, so I'm going to ditch a lot of this fuel. Probably most of it. Let's try that. So we're going to offload 150 pounds of fuel. Okay, so that gets us down to 67 pounds of fuel, which should give us, enough for 100. We're up to 770. It's still not that good. Let's see what we can load on. Okay, so we can load it. Look, we're just 29 off. Would you believe it? 29 pounds off. Okay, we'll ditch a little bit more fuel, and see. This might be a little bit. This might be tight, but we'll try it. Why not? We'll go down in flames all the way. So we can load the rest of our computer games off. If I unload this, I'll load it back on. There we go. So we've got 876 on board. We are 76 pounds over MTOW. but let's not tell anyone. But our estimated range is way down, so I think this is going to be a little bit tricky. So I think what I'll do is I will just, I'm going to play it safe, take a little bit more fuel, and a little, actually buy some fuel, which I can do from down here, a little bit more fuel. So we're going to load on another 30. There we go, 39 pounds, maybe 40, round it up. Well, the 113, that's plenty. Let's take that on, and we're going to load our cargo. Okay, well, it's let me do it. That's okay. So, but now I'm 118, which is quite far. We'll try it. We'll try it. This is quite a punchy Cessna. So it should climb out okay. It'll be a bit sluggish till we burn some of this fuel off, but it's worth a go. Obviously, you'd never do this in real life, but because it's simulation, we can. Well, if you do it on real life, you usually end up in the Daily Mail when you've plowed into a hedge. Never mind. So here we go. We've got our computer games on board. We've loaded some fuel. We've got our cargo. In fact, let's just unload a little bit of fuel because that's getting a little bit crazy. If we take this drop off just a little bit more, maybe 10. Offload fuel. That'll be a little bit better. Okay. Let's try that. If we unload and load it back in, it'll refresh the numbers. 180 doesn't matter. But we've got 113 now. That's more reasonable than 59. Gives us an alternate if we need it. So once we're ready to go, we can press OK. AirHauler is just going to tell us that we were overloaded slightly. We know that, but we're going to fly anyway. We've bought the fuel, so that's on board now. And then we get to the flight planning screen. So in here, you can plan a flight if you want to. You can add VORs. We could go from example, we could clear this route, and then we could say, well, we're going to go through the Perth VOR, and then we're going to go down to Glasgow, that kind of thing. We could also use NDBs, which still exist, although they are thinking of turning them off in the UK, pretty much. So we could plan an NDB, and then NDB, then we could maybe go to the Glasgow VOR if we wanted to. And then to our airport. So you can plan a basic route inside AirHauler. As well, you can do it in a third-party application. You don't need to use this route. AirHauler doesn't track it against the route. So if you fly completely differently from the route, AirHauler does not care. So you can plan anything you want. You can load in a route into X-Plane through a third-party app and fly that. You don't need to do this. So we can clear this out and just do direct. That'll just get us a direct GPS route. We'll probably program the GPS manually anyway once we're in the sim. And we're ready to go. So we're going to do it today at 8:36. So it'll still be light enough. It doesn't really matter if it's IFR, VFR. We're just going to fly it at VFR. And I'm going to pick a gate for this. And AirHauler will start up X-Plane for us at this tie-down turboprops and props section. So now that we're ready to go, Orbit's good. Oh, it keeps in Orbit. Orbit was a product that I wrote in a previous life, and I did lots of demonstrations over WebEx and things like that, so excuse me if I get mixed up. Now that we're going to go, AirHauler is going to ask us to launch X-Plane. Again, if you don't want this to pop up each time, you can say do not show the notification, but X-Plane is going to go and do it. Now it'll take a little minute for X-Plane start up, obviously. I'm going to reposition it as well once we get to the screen where it asks you if you want to resume the flight. And we'll just tidy it up a little bit, shouldn't take too long. Here we go. So I'm going to put it over here. And put OBS streamer over there. So hopefully you can see that, and it's going to work okay. If I just pull this over a little bit, see it there. And then we just need to click on resume last flight, and the AirHauler will start up the plugin and set up our scenario for us. And this will take a little second, so talk amongst yourself while it's loading. It won't take too long because it's the Cessna 172. I'm not running any other add-ons aside from ActiveSky, so it should be quite simple. Here we go. There, Marcella, yep, cheers. It's been a long day, so yep, drink responsibly and all that. One of the benefits of flight simulation. Okay, so let's let this load up. Okay, McConnell, yes, when you offload fuel to the depot, if you have a depot at your airport, yes, you can reuse it. If not, it just gets dumped. Other operators don't like using your dodgy fuel in case there's contaminants in it for obvious reasons. Virtual DB, yes, I am looking at it just now, so you don't have to restart X-Plane. The hotfix one, which is available on the AirHauler 2 forums, ah2justflight.com, has a much better flight tracking system. It's a little bit high on the CPU usage at the moment, which I'll be sorting out just very shortly, but that should let me get you restarting X-Plane without, well, not needing to restart X-Plane. You should just be able to drop in, so I'm going to be looking at that. Okay, so X-Plane's just about loaded. My camera's gone a little bit fuzzy, which isn't ideal. I think it's just lack of light. Okay, we'll just see. If the camera doesn't focus up, I'll turn the lights up a little bit through Alexa, and it will maybe work a bit better. Okay, so we're in the cockpit now, and you should be able to hear it. Let me know if the cockpit noise is too loud. It may be, but we'll see how we get on. I'm just going to pop off the camera view for a second while we're sorting out X-Plane. Okay, so any issues with Steam version of X-Plane versus straight install rotor? Not really. There does seem to be a little issue sometimes if you want to fly a flight without X-Plane. The Steam version isn't removing the ah2.plan file, but I'm on the case with that, so it shouldn't make too much difference. The good thing with the X-Plane version is you can try the beta, which I'll be supporting very shortly. Currently, AirHauler doesn't support scenery importing on the 1.5 beta. I'll have that fixed just in the next day or two, and it'll come out as part of the hotfix or the next update. Okay, so yep, thanks FS6 Splash. Yeah, I'm sure people want to see AirHauler. Well, they want to see X-Plane rather than me at the moment. Okay, so here we are in the cockpit. First up, let's just do a direct to route to Glasgow. We'll just do this manually. Okay, so now we need to figure out where we're going. I'm terrible at this. I always forget where I'm going. So we can use the AirHauler in-flight menu for this. If we go back with X-Plane and Alt-H is the shortcut for the in-flight menu. You'll see it pop up there. And then we can look at option 1 for onboard status. And then we can look at 1 for cargo condition. And that'll tell us our job. So yeah, this is EGPN to Echo Golf Papa Fox Trot, which is Glasgow. We've got our computer games. So I want to do Echo. We can go back. So from here, if we go back to our sat-nav, EG, and remember with Garmin, little knobs do little things, big knobs do big things is how I remember it when I'm flying along. I've actually got one of these in the Cessna that I fly as part of a syndicate in Aberdeen. So quite used to it, but I keep forgetting how to work it every so often. So that's our flight plan into the GPS. Yes, TIC6, yeah, there probably will be a hotkey for it, so you can select it from the X-Plane menu. That'll be coming out in the next patch, I think. I'll put it into there. I had a problem putting it in the right place in the menu, but we'll get that in for the next one. I'll make a note of it. And yes, Marcella, yes, Alt plus H is the current hotkey. Yeah. Yeah, virtual DB with 172 with rep. Yes, you can. You can do it. Currently, the way to do that is to sell the default Cessna or the default aircraft when you're starting a company, and then immediately buy the 172 rep or airfoil instead of the default one. So you can do it, or you can sell the Cessna and buy another one. So the best thing to do if you're starting a new company, sell the aircraft immediately, then go in, import your 172 rep or airfoil labs, and then buy that. So you can use it. Note the rep one, you need to use network mode at the moment because there is a little conflict with the rep one that I haven't quite got my head around yet. So use network mode with it and see how you get on. Yeah. Okay. Right, so I'll just pop this in-flight menu back again. We can go back and look through the options, or we can just do Alt-H to get rid of it. and we'll get our little aircraft set up. I did have some flaps there, but we don't need them because it's a nice kind of day. We'll have a quick listen to the ATIS, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be taking off on the west of the runway. So this is ATIS provided by
November airport information. Whiskey 1820.
ActiveSky.
Weather wind 242 at 11 visibility 10,000. Sky condition few clouds at 4,000. Temperature 16 2.9. QNH 1028. Advise on initial contact. You have information. Whiskey.
Okay, so there we go. We got information. Whiskey. The salient point for just now. Wind 242 at 11. Knots, which isn't too fast. The wind's calmed down a bit since yesterday when I was flying. It was about 15, 20, 30 knots, which is quite fun, quite sporting. So, we're not going to fly with ATC. I don't like the ATC in X-Plane. I've not found a good ATC add-on yet. I tried Pilot to ATC, but I can't recognise my voice at all. It must be the Scottish accent, or lack thereof. Anyway, so we'll just get going. We're going to just tap on the brakes and have a little taxi out. Runway 27. And there you go, you can see AirHauler says taxi and take off in the top left there. It knows that we're tracking the flight. If you don't get those bongs when you start to move, that's when you sometimes wonder if AirHauler is tracking your flight or not. So it's always good to check that you got the bongs. We're not going to do power checks or any of that kind of stuff or read a checklist because this is a simulator. Don't need to do it right now. I know a lot of streamers tend to do that, but I'm not going to in this instance. Okay, so here we are. Just have a quick look. Runway, I think we've got plenty space. So we'll just come around on the runway and get going. Yeah, nice long runway. It's only a little Cessna anyway, so we should be fine. Straighten up a little bit, and we'll just get going. So I am a little bit overweight, remember, so it might be a little bit sluggish getting up in the air. Maybe some flaps would have been a good idea after all, but we'll just see what we're doing here. Okay, I don't have very much fuel, remember, so we'll just have to see how far we get. I'm pretty sure we'll make it though. Okay, so airspeed's up. I'd be checking my T's and P's and all that kind of stuff if this is a real flight. Up we go, and once we get up above about 300 feet, AirHauler will swap into en route mode so it knows that we're on our way. You'll see a message just come up in a second, and a ding in top left. There we go. So en route, fly this sector and land at your destination. So AirHauler is tracking your flight. It knows we've taken off, knows we're in the sky, and it's just going to keep an eye out for us. I'm just going to climb up about 80 knots here. Come around to our track, which is about 236. So we'll just wander around and get going. We'll take it up to about 2,000 or 3,000 feet. And then once we're there, because it doesn't climb that quick, I'll use accelerate terrain mode, just so we can zip along and it'll take less time for us to do this short flight. There we go, there's a big hill down beside Glenrothes. We don't want to fly over that, so we'll just head this way a little bit, and it's the aircraft trimmed out nicely, and we'll just climb up and get some altitude. Okay, thanks McConnell, yeah, I'll try that. I didn't have a chance to really train it very much. But it was problematic. The interface as well I found very confusing, but I guess I'll get used to it in time, because it'd be great to have a really good ATC for X-Plane. The advantage of Pilot to ATC, I believe, is that it also works with Just Flight's Traffic Global, which is awesome. I really like that. I'm not running it today just because I need to keep as many CPU cycles for our lovely stream, but it would be good to have that. There we go. I was going to get rid of me and I forgot, so there we go. That's just gets rid of me from the screen as well. I don't quite know what's up with that camera. I will try and focus it while we're flying along. Okay, so it's just climbing up about 80 knots. We'll just climb up at 80 knots, get up to about 2,500. Yeah, Virtual DB, the rules are different depending where you fly with the semicircular, or what used to be the quadrantal rule in the UK. For VFR, it's not that important. IFR, obviously it is. Again, AirHauler doesn't care. So it's kind of difficult to get that into it. There are loads of really good free third-party planning tools around, so I don't really want to have to reinvent the wheel on that. I'd rather just let someone use the whichever tool they want to do it. Okay, Dark Art. Yes, this does work on the Steam edition of X-Plane 11, as well as the non-Steam version. Okay, so here we are. We're coming up 2,300 feet just shortly, just climbing up nicely. Once we get into the cruise, we'll stick on the autopilot, let it head that way. I'm going to nip in the back for help myself with the in-flight bar, and then we'll accelerate time and get down to Glasgow nice and quickly. Take 6, yes, in-flight failures are random, and the lower your condition, your aircraft, the more likely it is you will have them. So you have two systems inside AirHauler 2. There's condition, which is your general wear and tear, airworthiness of the aircraft, and there are individual system failures, which cover flaps, gear, radios, hydraulics, pitot systems, so your altimeter and your ASI and your VSI, unless you're using electrically driven, and also the electrical system, which will then fail them if they're electrically driven. So there are random failures, and the worse condition your aircraft is in, the more likely it is that you're going to have an issue. Okay, so we're coming up on about 3,000 feet. I'm going to let it creep up to 3,000, then we'll stick the autopilot on, and we will just let it tootle along. We're going to put it in GPS mode here for the top CDI. I would usually twiddle some knobs at this point and try and get it all lined up, but we'll just slap on the autopilot and make sure it's right. So this is 3,000 feet. Stick on the autopilot and Alt hold. Here we go. Okay, so let's just leave that here for 2 seconds, and I'm going to nip in the back, see if I can find a Mars bar in amongst the cargo, and I'll be right back. If you've got any questions or anything you want to answer, stick it in the chat, and I'll pick it up in just a second. Okay, so I had a rummage in the back, found a couple of Mars bars and some mini cheddars for the in-flight entertainment and catering. So we're moving along here on our way to Glasgow. So just questions from a chat. Sinistry, yes, you can do you do little short trips. I do most of my flying just as bush flying, or well, not really bush flying, but little short trips in light singles. I don't really do heavy metal most of the time, although I am going to try and build a 737 cockpit. But yeah, most of my stuff's done in light singles. My favourite's the Aero Commander that I imported as well alongside the Cessna. Fantastic little aircraft, the AC500, love that. So I do a lot of my hauling in that, just tootling about and seeing what we can do. One thing I really like about X-Plane, I must say, compared with Flight Sim, is the nighttime visuals. The lighting is awesome and really good, so I've been quite enjoying that, actually. Some of the other things, the ATC is a bit of a pain. The lack of traffic was solved by Traffic Global, but yeah, I've been doing a lot of night flying in X-Plane, and I'm quite enjoying it, actually. I didn't enjoy 10, but 11's much, much better. Okay, yeah, Nicholas, will Vulcan be a problem? No, it's fine. I mean, AirHauler doesn't care. It's a third-party application that sits in the background, so it doesn't really matter how X-Plane's working. So if X-Plane's using Vulcan, that's fine. AirHauler doesn't need it. It doesn't have a graphical engine. So yes, it'll work without issue. Yeah, Take 6. Yeah, VR is pretty good. I've got a Rift, the Vive, got a Pimax. I do a lot of VR stuff for Elite Dangerous, but not so much in X-Plane. But I do need to try a bit more. It's a bit weird twiddling knobs and stuff like that in VR. I find it quite disconcerting, but it does look pretty good when you get into it. Yeah, Elite Dangerous is the go-to for VR. It's fantastic. Okay. So just tootling along here, we'll see, there we go. My camera seems to have sorted itself out again, so it'll put me back on. And you can see me in my little GPS underneath my other GPS. There we go. Now there's a big hill on the way here coming up, just a high ground. And so I think we're just going to scoot around that a little bit. We're just going to pop the GPS into heading mode and we'll use the bug. And that'll just divert us around a little bit. Give that hill a wide berth. We'll pick up track on the other side of that. And let's scoot along to Glasgow. Let's stick on the ground speed and move it along. Hopefully the cockpit noise isn't too loud. Let me know if it is. I can turn it down a little bit. Okay, 40 miles to go. It's a really short flight actually. I could have just flown it by hand, but we'll just scoot along just to save some time on the stream. Now that we're past that hill, we're going to pop back on the nav and pick up our track again. Nicholas, would a sim brief implementation for rigging be possible? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, again, AirHauler doesn't really mind how you actually fly it, so yeah, can do. Something I can look into. I'll take a note of that and put it on the list. I've got a handy little notepad here for things like that. So sim brief integration, put that down. Okay, we've picked our track up again, which should be fine. Let's need to get around these hills a little bit. We'll just take the corner off. Yeah, the AH2 FMS is a very bare bones flight plan. It does list the points in order. I've not tried importing it with ActiveSky. That's a good point. I will have a look at that because I use ActiveSky with every single flight. But I don't usually load a flight plan for it. I'll just fly. So I'll just jump in and ActiveSky will track me and give me decent weather. So I'm not that bothered usually, but that's something that should work. So I'll have a look into that for you. Okay, we'll just speed the time up a little bit here. The interesting thing about X-Plane here with this 16 times ground speed is that it's ground speed. It doesn't change the sim time. So just be wary of that a little bit if you're doing passenger flights. In the X-Plane, in the flight sim, I should say, version of AirHauler, you do get penalized for arriving too early for a passenger flight, but I've taken that out of X-Plane because of the accelerated time feature. Proper accelerated time in X-Plane doesn't seem to accelerate very much, so the terrain time seems like a much better option, but it doesn't change the local world time, so horses for courses on that one. The important thing is not to depart late. If you arrive early, you arrive early. Just don't leave late. The passengers don't like it. Okay, so we're going to regain our track now and turn around. Yeah, McConnell, yeah, you do. You get more accurate weather. To be honest, I find it's pretty good anyway. So it works for my bimbling about, but it should work. So I'll have a look at it. Okay, here we go towards Glasgow. While we're here, we might as well just have a little look at the map and just. You're going to come to Glasgow. There we are. Look, we can probably just fly straight in on a very extended final, but we'll get closer. The good thing about the Cessna is you can drop the flaps and just take it out of the sky. It's no problem. So we'll get a little bit closer and then we'll drop down. We'll have a quick check of the ATIS once we're there, just to see what the weather's doing, but we'll probably just land on that runway. Okay, let's just increase our ground speed again. Glasgow Airport's just over these hills a little bit. It's kind of in a valley. If you fly into it, a little bit of weather. If you fly into it, you can certainly notice the terrain just around it, especially even if you're just coming in on something like a passenger flight, an EasyJet, or something like that from far off places. I go in and out there a lot with Jet2, Cyprus, places like that. Okay, it's coming up on 10 miles. We'll get it down to 5 or something, and then we'll start dropping down. In fact, we'll drop it down a little bit now. And while we've still got the autopilot on, let's just have a quick listen to the ATIS to see what we've got.
Golf, Papa, Foxtrot, airport information, Yankee 182, 0, Zulu, weather, wind 232, at 10, visibility 10,000, sky condition, ceiling 3,400, overcast, temperature 14, dew point 9, Q&A.
Okay, there's my little camera's gone pear-shaped, but yeah, never mind. I'll just hide that off actually. Okay, so yep, as expected, the weather is behaving. The weather report's crazily accurate, 3,400 probably for that layer of cloud just above us, which we're not going to go near. And we can see the runway straight ahead. We can ditch the GPS now, don't really need it, and we'll back off the power, disconnect the autopilot, and start our descent down. Yeah, as regards the Navigraph data, the AirHauler cycle in AirHauler is really quite old. I will get round to updating it very shortly, and I'll probably add in an import as well, so you can just put your own one in. That'll be much easier. Okay, so incredibly high. Obviously, we just want to come down a little bit. Frame rate might just be a little bit rubbish on here, but we'll see how we get on. Okay, obviously, usually if we were doing this with ATC or in real life, we'd be under a radar control service by now in their airspace, but we're not. We're just going to blast straight in. Because you don't want to watch me flying around an X-plane. We can get back to AirHauler and unload this job and see what else we can pick up. Rotor, it doesn't currently. That we don't currently inject planes into X-plane. It's a lot easier to do that in Flight Sim and P3D because it's got a much more robust AI handling SDK. That being said, I have been talking to the guys at Just Flight about their Traffic Global, so I'm hopeful I can add that in a patch fairly shortly. Nicholas, about bankrolling your company, you don't really, but when you come back, every time you launch AirHauler, you will get charged for 1 month of what you've missed. So if you've been away for a year, then it'll take 12 launches to catch up. So as long as you open AirHauler and then make enough money to catch up with a monthly payment, you can stave off the cost. So it's not really that much of a problem. You can also put bases into inactive and then you don't get charged fees for them. You can't use them, they don't get jobs and the usual stuff, but you can set them inactive and then you don't get charged for them. Traffic Global, it does have GA traffic, yeah. Okay, so here we go, barreling down the what would be ILS if I'd set it, but it's VFR, we can see where we're going. About 100 knots. Once we get a little bit closer, we'll just drop a couple of stages of flap, and that'll slow us right nicely down once we're inside the wide arc. Or we could land flapless if we wanted, but let's just slow up a little bit. Then we can drop some flap. Nice long runway, so we don't need to worry. And I want to get off the other end anyway, so I don't need to hit it on the numbers. That was the 500 call out from AirHauler. We'll put the flaps down a little bit early. Should be okay. I'll just go full flap. There you go, 40 degrees there. And then 40 degrees flap on a 170 like this, we can just point it at the ground and just go for it. Okay, now with any luck, we won't spam it into the tarmac and cause loads of damage. maybe I should just to show you, but let's try and land nicely. There we go, a little bit of a bounce for you, that'll do. Okay, so we won't have done any damage with that one. When you land, you'll get that pop up on the left hand side, and AirHauler will grade your landing performance. OK means you won't do any damage, smooth is better, and a greaser means you just kissed it onto the tarmac, which is what everyone's looking for. Beyond that, you've got positive, very positive, catastrophic, and each one of those is doing going to do some damage to your aircraft. I might have a 1 or 2% damage, just general wear and tear, but that was a reasonably good landing. We can walk away from it, so we're quite happy. Let's clean the aircraft up, get the flaps up, and we're going to taxi around and find somewhere to park. Again, I'm just going to park somewhere. I don't need to do the whole kind of find a parking spot with ATC, because I want to get back to AirHauler and show you guys that rather than spend ages taxiing around in X-Plane. There we go. One thing I've noticed about X-Plane compared with Flight Sim is it's very, very sensitive on the ground, and you do tend to skite around all over the place if you're not careful. Let's just go and park in front of the control tower to show them how awesome we are, and then we can unload our stuff. Okay, let's just park up here. There we go. Because we'll need to reverse out of here if we do another flight. In fact, we can do a little passenger flight back to Dundee. That'd be a good idea, and I can show you how that works. So here we are, parked up. We can go through a whole shutdown routine if we want to, if you've got an add-on aircraft that needs it. This one, I'm just going to, I could do the throttle for 1500 RPM for 30 seconds, but it's the same, it doesn't really matter. And we can just pull the mixture and let it idle cut. Take 6, yeah, I have adjusted my curves for the rudder pedals. It's much better now. I've flattened them out a lot, but it probably needs a little bit more. So now that the engines are off, AirHauler's said, great, thanks for that. Alt-tab back to AirHauler. And we do recommend currently closing X-Plane between flights. I know that's a bone of contention for some people if it takes a long time to load. I am looking into it, but for now the advice is to quit out of X-Plane and relaunch it, just because it makes everything nice and tidy. But just be assured that is being developed at the moment, so we can try and just let you back in. It might work. If it works for you, and it's more likely to work in network mode, if it works for you, then that would that's great. Feel free to use it. If it doesn't, just quit and come back. So I'm just going to quit out of this. It doesn't take too long because it's just a Cessna. If it was a complex one, I'd be more inclined to leave it on, but we can just close off X-Plane. And while that's doing that, we'll get back to AirHauler. Okay, so back over to AirHauler. Should be able to see that now. I might even pop myself back on here. There I am. In here. Right, okay, so we're back in AirHauler. We've landed in Glasgow. What we want to do now is, before we finish flight monitoring, is just unload our cargo. We could do it later, but let's just do it now. So here's our computer games. We unload. And there we go, job completed. And you won't see it because it's just appeared on the side of my monitor, but we got a achievement for that because we completed our first cargo job. That's the clapping that you heard, excuse me. So job's completed. It's unloaded our cargo, and we're back to empty. Okay, so now we can go and look for another job to pick up, or let's just do a little cargo flight, a PAX flight back. That's probably a good thing to do. And then here in the AirHauler tracker, we can finish flight monitoring, and that's going to give us our results on the flight. So here's our flight performance. We can see we came from Dundee over to EGPF, which is Glasgow. Takeoff and landing time. Now remember, these are in-sim times, but because we use the terrain acceleration, they're not reflective of the actual flight time. Takeoff fuel, touchdown fuel, so how much fuel we consumed between them. AirHauler will store that, so next time you fly, you'll have the appropriate amount back on. Some data about our information here. Min G, max G. G forces are important when you have packs on board. They don't like it if you have high negative G, or if you have a lot of positive G, they'll get quite spooked. So you want to fly nice and smooth if you have passengers on board. We didn't stall it, no overspeed, landing was okay, we didn't do any landing damage, we didn't take any surface damage. If you land a 737 on forest, you will take surface damage in addition to landing damage, but because we landed on concrete, that's perfectly acceptable for a 172. Landing VSI was 274 feet per minute, a little bit heavy, could have been a little bit smoother, but hey ho. And just some information about the wind speed, direction, and when we touch down. Yeah, FXS Splash, the default turbulence in ActiveSky is set way too high. It needs to come down to about 20%, if that, maybe 10-15. Compared with real life in a light single, it's like a washing machine. It's ludicrous. So always make sure that you turn it down. Okay, so we finished flight monitoring. We can go back to our map now, and we can just have a little look in here and see what we've got. So we're currently at EGPF in Glasgow, and there are two jobs. I mean, there's a job out for frozen food, which we could do if we wanted to, and there's one out to Newcastle for DVDs. So frozen food or DVDs. Frozen food's going up to Lossiemouth, is that? Yep. Oh, Kinloss. There's Lossiemouth, Kinloss. And there's one that goes to Newcastle. So I could pick one of those jobs if I wanted to. While we're in Glasgow, well, we could do a packs and cargo. I'm not sure there's a lot of I'm not sure there's an awful lot of space to get both people on. Yeah, we might do. Let's see. While we're here, commodity stocks. We could buy some commodities actually. That's a good shout. So we can because Glasgow's a larger airport, it has a commodity market, which Dundee doesn't, unfortunately. So we can have a look at these commodities here. These are all the things that I can buy in Glasgow, and I can sell them in other airports that have commodity markets. So if we pick one, for example, tea, it's currently selling for 83. If we look over here on the right hand side, where the green dots are, that's where we're going to make a profit on it. So it's selling for 92 in Lookers. So we'd make, you know, a little bit per pound if we wanted to do that. Textiles or toys and games, you know, we can make 13 per pound if we take them up to Inverness. So we can trade them. Airports with virtual pilot, airports always sell fuel in AirHauler. I don't think there's any airports that don't sell fuel, and now you can always buy fuel from any airport in AirHauler. So we could buy some commodities and sell them. Not much profit. There's a little bit of a profit in watches at the moment. If we took them over to Belfast City, we could make 30 per pound. So, you know, if we can get £100 on there, that would into the aircraft, that would make us, you know, 3,000. So you can buy and sell commodities. If there's not a job to do, you can buy buy commodities. Use the information on here to go and sell them at a profit. Yeah. Also, when you start getting into factories and construction, factories will require commodities for production. So if you want to make microwave ovens, for example, you'll need plastics, you'll need metals, things like that, which you can purchase in other places and ship back. Virtual DB, not all remote strips currently let you buy fuel. There isn't. It's much easier that way because otherwise people can get stranded. So all airports in AirHauler will supply fuel. Otherwise it just gets too complicated. So let's do a little passenger flight back to Dundee maybe and pick up some packs. We can do this with an ad hoc flight. So there's two sides to the packs operations. We can either do a route, which is where we set up scheduled routes. So this is where we're going to have passenger aircraft and schedule in a Monday to Monday route, a weekly schedule. So if you're going to go out to, I don't know, Vienna on Monday morning and then come back via Manchester, Aberdeen, Vienna, that kind of thing, like a standard airline passenger route. And then you can assign pilots to that and build your schedule. We'll do that once we get to Dundee. I'll show you how to do that. But another thing we can do is an ad hoc flight. So ad hoc flight just lets us take one of our passenger aircraft that's not currently involved in a route. If the aircraft is on a route, you can't use it. It's only designated for that route. But this one here, we can use any of our passenger aircraft, and we can just fly a little ad hoc flights anywhere we want. So we can pick any airport that we want to go to and fly there with some passengers. So we'll do a little PAX flight over to Dundee because we want to go home, get home for the night. We're going to use the 172 because it's the only aircraft that we have currently, and we'll select that. Okay, I'm just going to fade myself out again because my camera is going pear-shaped, but you don't need to see me anyway. Okay, so this aircraft will be departing from AGPF from Glasgow. So where are we going to go? Well, let's go back to Dundee, which we can either type in Dundee here, or we can pick EGPF, or from the drop down here, we can just select bases. There's a little shortcut in there, so you can just jump to it. Actually, just before I do this, I'll show you on the map. What a lot of people don't realize is on the map, if you right click, there are shortcuts to the various things that you own. So if you have pilots, you can look for a particular pilot, an aircraft, or a base. You can jump between them. That's really quite useful. You can also search for any airport and go directly to it rather than have to click on it on the map. So good little tip there. Let's get back to planning our ad hoc flight. We're going to go back to base, so back to EGPN. Which is fine. It's only 59, it's not far. So I can bring in Uncle Joe. Yes, if you import a plane and you set the max PAX to 0, you cannot use it for passenger flights because there's no seats on it. So unless it is an aircraft you're never going to bring PAX onto, always make sure the max PAX is set correctly. Note that there is a limit on that, and it's worked out based on the maximum takeoff weight of the aircraft with a ratio. Back in the early days of AirHauler 2 for FSX P3D, there were people flying around in 500-seat Cessnas until I put that in. So the only thing with that is there are some outliers. It's reasonably accurate, but there will be some aircraft where you can get 16 people on it, but AirHauler thinks it can only fit 14. So you'll have to just play around with that a little bit. But it's not very many, and it tends to affect the usual outliers, the STOL, those kind of things. But yeah, put a PAX on it, and that's the easiest way to do it. Okay, so we're going to go to Dundee, and this time we're going to get our passenger planning page up. So we're going to do an ad hoc passenger flight. Ad hoc just means we're flying. It's not scheduled. We're just going to do it. And we're going to go from Glasgow to Dundee. We know that it's got 2 runways because we kind of live there. This is when we're going to do it. Departure time and start time. So we can set our departure time and arrival time. Note these times are in UTC. Yeah, they're always in UTC, not local time. A lot of people struggle to get their head around that sometimes, especially if they're not used to it, but that is how aviation's planned worldwide. It's all based in UTC. We can set the flight sim start time. This is when AirHauler is going to configure X-Plane to start for us. I'm just going to put it as 0 minutes before takeoff because we'll board really quickly. If I set it to 5 minutes, we'll be sitting around for 5 minutes. Exterminator, the seats do add a little bit of weight and lower the max cargo capacity, but it's not really that much of a burden, to be honest. It adds a little bit of weight, but it's far better to have a multifunctional aircraft where you've got PAX or cargo rather than being stuck with cargo, especially if you're starting out and you're flying light singles and you want to bounce around a bit, or light twins. It's much better to set them to passenger config. If you don't want to, you can swap them back to cargo configuration later. When we get to Dundee, I'll show you how to do that. From the fleet menu, you can change the configuration at any time. Now you've got to do it at base because you need your warehouse, effectively your hangar, to do it in. You can't just rock up at somebody's airport and rip a load of seats out or fit a load of seats. But if you're at a base, you can change the configuration of the aircraft. Okay, so we've got our time and our departure. We know where we're going, and then we come over to our ticket pricing on the left-hand side here. Down the bottom, this shows us what seats are available. So we've got 3 seats available at the moment, and we've currently sold 1 ticket for economy at £150 a ticket. Now we can move this slider around to see how much money we can get. Nobody wants to pay over about 150. 150 is quite a lot to go from Glasgow to Dundee, so they obviously don't want to do it. But if we go down a little bit, we can see how much money we're going to make. We can sell 1 ticket at about 150. If we just drag it down a little bit, we can maybe sell 2, which would get us 218. If we sell 3, we could get, well, we can't make that much money actually. So 2 and 218 is about the sweet spot. There is a sweet spot for these that you can play around with to find to get the max amount of money. So we're only going to sell 2 seats. That on that is 218. It is very difficult. Before anyone goes, oh, 218, that's nothing. It is very difficult to make money in a Cessna doing passenger flights, especially with a distance of 60 nautical miles. It really is not worth it. And there are a lot of things in AirHauler 2 that are not worth it. So, you know, it won't hold your hand in that regard. It's quite happy to take money off you. So, you know, if it's not worth it, do something else. I mean, for these 2 passengers, we could load it with a bunch of watches and flight-to-lookers and sell them and make more money. Or do, you know, flight to Newcastle, pick up a job to there, and then maybe see if we get a job back towards Dundee, or do some more commodity trading. So there are a lot of things in AirHauler that will not make you any money, but that's by design. It's not set up that you'll always make money. Okay, so we're going to do this one anyway just to show you guys how it works. So we're going to sell our 2 seats at 218. On the left we've got our cabin service. Now all this does is this ups your direct operating cost, because you're going to need a hostess or host, or a cabin attendant of some description. If you get a purchase service, that's like when you go on BA now, which didn't used to be, or now, and you've got to buy your food. That gets a little bump in passenger satisfaction. Complimentary service and executive service, that's where you get everything free, so you get a meal, you get a drink. AirHauler doesn't do the simulation of the like FS Packs would, where you have to put the dingers on and serve drinks and that kind of thing. I thought it was a little bit too in depth, but I might add some of that in the future. But it gives you a baseline boost to passenger satisfaction, yeah. And what we're aiming for in PAX flights is to have a satisfaction above 50%. You get a satisfaction above 50%, you've passed the job, yeah. Below 50%, you fail it. And as you fly along, passengers accrue satisfaction. Not when you get close to the destination, because then you're going to descend, and that's when passengers get nervous again. And when you take off, they get a bit nervous. So takeoff and landing, you don't gain rep, or satisfaction, I should say. But while you're in the cruise, the passengers relax and their rep goes up. So the longer the flight, the higher rep you can get. Anything over 50 lets you pass the flight, but there will be some additional bonuses coming down the line for really high reps as the product matures for X-Plane. Just a quick one there. Yep, you can haul to multiple airports, Virtual DB. You can load wherever you want, and you can go to wherever you want. So you can load 2 or 3 jobs onto one aircraft and then jump around the airports, dropping stuff off and picking stuff up as you go. Yeah. Okay, so that's a little note about cabin service. We're not going to do any service at the moment. You know, they'll just have to take a sandwich with them. And this is the cost for the flights over here. So we're only going 59 nautical miles. We're actually going to lose money on this flight. By the time you add in the fuel, the direct operating cost 242. We're only going to get 218. So we wouldn't do that. Hi Rico, good to see you from Canada. Lovely place. I spent a lot of time in Calgary in a previous life. Fantastic. So we're gonna do this flight anyway, just so you get a feel for how PAX works. So we've got 2 passengers on board, 2 tickets out of 3. I'm just going to run with 2 because I was a bit overloaded last time. So this will balance out the karma, refill my luck bucket, as pilots like to say. So we're going to do flying out again. Brings us into the cargo loading. Now you can see we've got 2 packs. They're 380 pounds total. They've got 21 pounds of luggage. So we're up to 401 pounds of inverted comma self-loading freight. Now we've still got 400 libs there. We could possibly load some more cargo on. I'm just going to fly it back. I'm going to take a load more fuel though, because we did use up quite a lot of fuel in that last little one. We'll take 100 pounds of fuel, load that on, which is about 106 pounds or 106 cost-wise, and that'll get us going. So we're all ready to go. There's nothing else to load. We're not taking any cargo. The packs have taken their own stuff with them. Got that all loaded on, so I can OK that. That's our fuel purchased, 106 pounds 12, and then we get back to flight planning. Again, I'll just do a direct GPS flight. We could mess around with this, or you can plan the flight in a third-party application. And this time I'm going to start from a gate. Now with passenger flights, with cargo flights you can say just leave me where I was before. With passenger flights you have to start from a gate because passengers won't walk across the tarmac. If you just pulled off the runway and stopped, the packs aren't going to be able to get out to you. So for passenger flights you always start from a gate. So we're gate heavy jets. Here we go. Gate 1. That'll do. We'll just accept route and fly it. And then back to launching X-plane, and up we go. So again, let's just give X-plane a little second to load. I'll just move it over to the left-hand side here to maximize it, and resume last flight, and that'll let the plugin go and do its thing and sort it out for us. Okay, so same kind of regime this time. We'll take off, get into the cruise, we'll stick it on. We'll get a little bit higher this time so we don't have to avoid that terrain that we were avoiding on the way back over. And then while we're sitting in the cruise not doing very much, if you've got any queries, just pop them in the chat and I'll get around to them. And then once we get to Dundee, we'll have a quick look at scheduling packs, routes. We'll buy a couple of aircraft, buy a couple more Cessnas, and schedule some flights for them. And that'll probably wrap it up. And then probably, coming up for 2 hours, I think that'll probably tidy it up. But we'll see how we get on. And seeing that this has actually worked, which is a miracle, because I wasn't expecting it to work, to be perfectly honest. Might try and do some more of these over the next couple of weeks, looking at factories, production, aircraft manufacturing, all the kind of little extra things. Maybe just chilling out in AirHauler. We can always arrange a Zoom. Okay, so there was our little cabin announcement. When you're doing a PAX flight, you will get a cabin announcement, which will play once everyone's boarded. I set the sim time to 0 minutes before boarding, so I didn't have to wait because I'm on the stream. Don't want you guys sitting around for 5 minutes. But if you are here early, then up here in the AirHauler 2 information, it will say boarding begins in X minutes, and it will count down. Then the passengers will board, and then when it's finished, it will play the announcement. So we're a minute late. We better get on with it. Let me just set up my direct flight plan in the GPS. We don't need the menu. You can see our packs there. They're 75% satisfied at the moment. Hopefully, we can get them to Dundee without killing any of them, and they'll just be as satisfied. As long as they're over 50%, we're happy. We're not too bothered about getting it beyond that, and because it's such a short flight, they won't have time to accrue a lot of satisfaction. So as long as we get over 50%, don't kill anybody, land in one piece, live to fly another day, everyone will be happy. So we can close off this menu because we don't need it, and we better get going because we're 2 minutes late. Let's have a quick check of the ATIS, but I've got a sneaky feeling it'll be the same.
Airport information, Bravo 1850, Zulu, weather, wind 212 at 10, visibility 10,000, sky condition, ceiling 3,900, overcast, temperature 14, dew point 9, QNH 1030, advise on initial contact, you have information, Bravo.
Okay, so there's the ActiveSky, we've got information Bravo. Okay, so we want to take the westerly runway again. Here we're going to just go and taxi down a little bit. We're in a Cessna, we don't need the full run. So we'll just scoot down. Whoops, cut a little bit of corner here. There we go. I'm still getting my head around these rudder controls. I will modify my curves, as they say. So we're just going to taxi on out. Okay, virtual DB resuming last flight. Yeah, it does. It doesn't. The resume last flight's irrelevant because AirHauler is going to take it over, and once X-Plane sets up the, well, basically loads the AirHauler plugin, changes your user aircraft, and then loads it at the correct position. So, if you were flying the SR-71 before in X-Plane and that was your last flight, when you press resume last flight, the AirHauler plugin is going to go and grab the Cessna, stick it at Glasgow, and then set up the scenario for you. So yeah, it doesn't matter. Just always click resume last flight, and you'll be good to go. If you're not using AirHauler for a flight, again, click resume last flight. The plugin won't start because AirHauler didn't initiate it, although there is a little bug with that. I'm fixing it at the moment. And you'll just be in whatever your last flight was. But feel free to change it, obviously. Uncle Joe, you can't save mid-flight in AirHauler for X-Plane currently. I've removed that functionality for now until I rework it. It's going to go out of the next FSXP 3D version as well, because it simply just doesn't work. I need to do a little bit of retooling on that. So once I've got it back and running, which will only be a week or two, then we'll get it sorted out for you. Here's the threshold. I think this is far enough for my lowly little Cessna. We don't need a very big run up. I could just have gone from that location. Oh, this is where my rudders are not quite right. Never mind, nobody saw that. I didn't hit the light, honest. I missed it. Don't put it on my bill. Okay, so here we are. We're good to go. Hatches, harnesses, secured, all that kind of stuff. Good left, right side. And let's go. Virtual DB, is AirHauler 2 compatible smart co-pilot? No idea. I don't use it. It probably is. There's no reason why it wouldn't be. The AirHauler 2 doesn't control the aircraft or do anything. It just monitors what you are doing in the sim, so you should be able to. I'd love you to give it a try and let me know. That'd be really handy. Okay, so en route, fly this sector and land at your destination. Departure was on time. Excellent. So the packs are going to be happy. We're not late. That's the main thing. So we're off and running. And obviously we need to go around to the east because that's where Dundee is. So we'll just pop round here. There we go. Apologies for the shoddy piloting. I'm trying to see if I can get my camera to work again. There we are, down at the bottom in my Ghost in the Machine GPS. Okay, so we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to get up to about 3,000 feet. We'll stick it on autopilot. Then we'll use the terrain acceleration just to kill some time. In fact, we might not go too high because the weather will get in the way, which is a bit of an issue. We know that the cloud base here is about 3,400, so we want to just skirt under that for now, I think, because it's not terribly interesting looking at a grey screen all the way over. Or we could just take it up 5. Maybe we'll blast through the layer and wait and see. But my IFR flying is rather shoddy these days. I did do my IMC back in the day for the training, but didn't quite do it. Departure time, Grisk, is takeoff. When you actually get the wheels up is what AirHauler counts as departure time, not off blocks. So be careful of that. If you're running a traffic add-on with a lot of traffic at a busy airport, you know, keep an eye on that. Not in X-Plane, although I imagine it would be, but in Heathrow and FSX, something like that in P3D, with Traffic Global or some of the other traffic add-ons, Ultimate Traffic 2, which is really good for FSX P3D. I've been in a queue of like 10-15 aircraft, and it's added 10-15 minutes onto my departure time, and that's you know, the passengers have got a little bit shirty about that, which is what happens in real life. I used to fly, and still do. I fly over around, well, used to before the decimation of the aviation industry. I used to fly quite a lot internationally, and especially if I was on a tight connection, if we were still sitting on the tarmac 40 minutes after our scheduled time, I was getting pretty edgy, because if I missed that connection, it'd be an overnight in somewhere like Kazakhstan or something, which was not fun. So, you know, the packs think like me, and that would annoy me. So that's how it works. Okay, so again, 80 knots. We're just going to climb up. This is a nice little powerful Cessna. I fly one of these out of Aberdeen. I have done. Golf Charlie Charlie Tango Tango, and it's like a rocket. The usual 172N that I fly, Golf Bravo Echo Zulu Victor, is a 100 horse Lycoming, which is nowhere near the climb performance of this thing. It would take about 4 days to get up to 4,000 feet, whereas this thing just trots up quite the thing. So I like flying around this part of the world just because I'm from here. I'm from Aberdeen. My aircraft that I rent out from the syndicate is based in Aberdeen, so I go up and down between Aberdeen and Inverness, down the Great Glen and all that kind of stuff. Oban's a great place to go if you ever get the chance, and over to Glenforsa as well. Fantastic little night stop if you're doing any flying. Marcella, great, excellent, fantastic. Oh, I'm over Manifield Way, if that means anything, up behind the treetops, or what used to be the treetops. So there you go, good to have a local on board. Right, here comes 3,600 feet. I think we should probably stop the climb now, because this weather is going to be problematic. And we'll just stick it onto GPS mode, and we'll stick on the autopilot. There we go. And we can trot along for a minute. Bridge of Dawn, Marcella, excellent. Yep, I actually I grew up in the Bridge of Dawn, and went to Glasgow School back in the day, up in Newborough Crescent. Fantastic place. So it never managed to escape. Kiwi, currently yes. Commodities for tier 2 and 3 commodities. By the way, there's just a little pop-up. AirHauler will just pop up every 5 minutes or so. Pack satisfaction 78%, so they're happy. I've got 48 minutes to arrive, which is fine because I'm only going to be 21 minutes en route. In fact, I'm going to be less when I use the terrain acceleration. Yes, Kiwi, currently tier 2 and 3 commodities can only be used for missions. However, I am planning on adding various places around the world where you can, sell those commodities. It's slightly problematic because if I put somewhere that that you can buy or you can sell luxury watches at, and it's right next door to one of your bases where you make luxury watches at a massive discount, it just becomes a cash generation thing. So it needs a little bit of fiddling, but it is on the roadmap that you'll be able to sell them, and they'll pop up from time to time. They won't be constant. It will be like the missions thing, but there will be a much higher instance of the missions. There'll be like a kind of global marketplace where people are going to be looking for those. Much like the VA functionality, there's a global jobs board, which is additional jobs which you can dip in and out of. So there will be a list of global purchasers of these kind of things who will only require so much, and once they've got enough, that will vanish and you'll have to find somewhere else to sell the watches, but it'll be refreshed on a constant basis. I'm working on that just now. It's probably a couple of weeks off, if that. But yeah, there's a plan for you to let you do that. For now, anything you make tier 2 and tier 3, you have to supply to a mission. Okay, well, while we're in the cruise and before we get to these big hills, I'm just going to rummage in the back, see if I can find another Mars bar. Feel free to post in the chat, and I'll be back in 2 minutes, and I will answer any of your questions. Okay, so back again now. It's getting a little bit cloudy up here, and we need to get to Dundee, so we might just have to do a little bit of steering about the place. We'll probably miss it. We can come to the right of those hills. We'll be okay. I think I will just drop down a little bit though, just to get out of this weather. And there we go, and then we'll have a look. Let me just do this, then I'll catch up with the chat. If I try and do too many things at once, it all goes horribly wrong. I'll just get down about 3,000. Ah, that's much better. There we go. And what we'll do, rather than do the GPS track, we'll just set the bug. A little bit bumpy around here, but that's okay. There we go. Heading mode and alt. There we go. And then we can just steer here while I am having a look and see what's going on. Okay, so Kiwi, if you build a factory, are you more likely to get missions related to products you're producing there? Not currently, but yes, in the future, because you have, look, my packs are up to 81%, that's great, they're happy, I've not managed to kill them. Yes, because you're making that, there will be more missions for it. That's part of this new functionality where you'll be able to sell your stuff. It might not be close to where you are, but there will be an outlet to sell them. VirtualDB, when I cancel a job, it goes from my available job. Shouldn't it go back and there's available jobs board synced for other users? No, the available jobs board isn't synced for other users. The exception to that is if you're flying or using a virtual airline and you're using the global jobs board, which I'm thinking on the global jobs board, I'm probably going to make it just available to everyone. So it would be synced, so you can pick the ones that you want to do, you can dip in and out. When you cancel a job, it vanishes because it's no longer available to you. You've annoyed the person who you said you know. If I phone up a courier in Aberdeen and say, can you come and get this pallet and ship it to Vietnam for me? If they turn around the next day and say, actually, we're not going to do that, I'm not going to deal with them again. So that's why it vanishes. You can't get that job back because they've gone and found someone else and you've lost some reputation for it. But I am planning on bringing the global jobs board, which is a VA thing. It shows you, it's just a pool of jobs you can pick in, which a server on the back end generates. I'm planning on letting just everybody pick out of that. So that'll give you a lot more opportunity for jobs. And that's tied into kind of this missions thing as well for selling tier 2 and 3 commodities. They're going to be on the back end server. So when I do that, I'll unlock the global job board for everyone as well. So there will be kind of shared job boards there. Yeah. Aviator 12, 21 Aviator 12. Any chance in the future there'll be a companion app like in the iPhone or Google Play site? Yeah, there might be. I actually wrote an Apple Watch app for AirHauler 2 back when it was in very early beta, which was quite good fun, and it would ding when you your AI pilots crashed and stuff like that. I never released it. There may be the thing with that is what would it do? AirHauler runs on your own PC, so it doesn't really push your information out onto the net. So making an app becomes a little bit more tricky. It's possible, but it's something I would have to look into. I am looking at doing an app probably for VA kind of stuff. It depends how much I want to push into the cloud. In the future maybe it'll all be cloud-based, but for now it installs on your PC, and there you go. So getting stuff from the PC to the phone is an issue. It's easy enough if you're on the same network, but if you're not on the same network and you're out and about, you can't really manage your company if you're down the pub. Well, not you're allowed to go down the pub with Corona anymore, but if you're traveling, you can't really manage it because you'd have to have it running on your PC and have some way to get the information back and forward. You need like a static IP or a dynamic, So possibly, we'll see on that one. but I'm not averse to it. It'd be quite good to have an app. Let's see, McConnell, I completed a mission just before the stream, but did not have the award. The end of their flight report said to complete the mission. I don't have the achievement on the war screen. Restart it. Restart AirHauler 2. Some of the achievements don't trigger until you log back in again. Well, not log back in. Restart the app. But see if that helps it. Bacon Bomb, can you see AI flights in the sim? Not currently. You can in the FSX P3D version, but X-Plane's AI handling is a bit more problematic. So I'm hoping to bring that out in a future update quite soon. I've been talking to the JF guys about it with Traffic Global. Uncle Joe, so that global will be available to nomads too. Yep, the global job boards will be available to everyone, whether you're a nomad or you're a company. And it will just be a big list of maybe 5,000–6,000 jobs that are constantly refreshed on the back end of the server. It's there already under the global job board, but you can only select them if you're in a VA. But I'm going to open that up to everyone. Okay, Take 6. Yeah, there is an AirHauler 2 website. AirHauler2.com gets you to a new portal that I launched about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's very much a building block. It has the radar. It's got some VA information on it, but I'm going to expand that out as we go forward and add some more functionality into it because I think it's quite useful. So there will be some more coming for that at the moment. First thing I need is an advert to tell people to buy AirHauler, but I'm going to add some more stuff to it as well, more stats. JK, yeah, hi, thank you very much. Glad that you like it. Glad it's working okay. Right, let's pop along. You can see in front of us there's the two hills there. That's just around Glenrothes 5. If you come over them from the north, Fife Airport's just on the other side of those. You can see it just on the GPS actually. But we can spin on a little bit if we use the terrain acceleration. And we can get up to Dundee. Again, the pack's nice and happy, so that's good. We're at 84%, so barring any big mishaps or too much of the old Vino Blotto, then we should land okay and be fine. Okay, we're a little ways to the south, obviously, because I wasn't following the GPS track. We can turn around and do it. Still on the autopilot. We've still got 12 miles to run, but we'll just run in towards Dundee. Again, the wind won't have changed, so we really need to come at it from the east and land towards the west, on the westerly runway. But I think we'll just go overhead and do a join and then come back in. Okay, while we're doing that, let's do a few more things in the chat. Okay, you have different JQ or JKEUK, different mod candidates of the Zibo 737X Play 11, and when I import them separately, they show up separate, but when I go to fly, only the first ever loaded one gets loaded in the sim. I think that relates to like kind of the livery kind of stuff. Tell me if it doesn't. Yes, Jay, we're going for the Tay bridge end. That's the plan. If we end up the other end, we'll probably end up in the Tay. If there's a good tailwind. But yeah, I think that's to do with the livery. I don't have the Zibo mod myself yet. I didn't actually use XP very much until I started porting AirHauler to it, and then, to be honest, I've done it with the stock version of all the aircraft to confirm that works. But now that it's out, I'll be picking up mods, and Zibo 737's top of my list, so hopefully we'll be able to get that to work. I know that the Zibo guy who develops the Zibo, is on one of the dev chat groups for X-Plane, so I can have a chat with him and see if I'm doing something that is conflicting, and we can get it sorted out, I'm sure. Speedy balding, the overland feature. Sure, yeah. If you arrive at an airport which you do not have a base at, which is not the destination for your cargo, when you unload the cargo, you have the option of transferring it over land, so basically by truck. So if you have to divert because of weather, if you were playing properly, shall we say, and you had to do a divert because of weather, then you could land at your alternate and then ship the goods by truck. And then that way, if you had a tight turnaround, you could just drop them off, let the truck take it. There's a time penalty for that, but it could still be within the expired time of the job, and there's a cost penalty obviously for loading onto a courier and transporting it. But yeah, it's basically trucking cargo that you can't get to the destination to the destination. So if you land somewhere that isn't a base and is not the destination of the cargo and unload the cargo, you'll be asked if you want to overland it. Basically put it on a truck and take it where it should go. And then at that point, it's just on its way. You can go and do something else. And when it's delivered, you complete the job as usual. Hopefully that explained it properly. If not, let me know. I can go into it a little bit more. Okay, so here we go. Pass satisfaction 88%. Scheduled ETA 33 minutes. So I've got plenty of time to arrive. We can see Dundee off in the distance there. There's the bridges, the rail bridge and the road bridge. So we'll just head straight up the Tay here. We'll drop down a little bit, then we'll hang a left-hand turn and come in for the westerly runway. One thing that I quite like about X-Plane is that the oil rigs are actually in the Tay. They've got three. There should only really be one. But yeah, the jack-up oil rigs are actually accurate, which is quite nice. And the Orbex airport's really quite good as well. I've got most of the Orbex stuff for FS6P3D, but I'm quite enjoying it for X-Plane. The Cardiff's nice. This Dundee one's great. So I'm going to pick up some more Orbex airports for my P3D, for my X-Plane, I should say, installation. Okay, I'll drop the autopilot out here and we'll just start heading down a little bit because we're going to have to lose all this altitude. There's the runway off to our left. We can get rid of the GPS now because we know where we are. Now, obviously, this hasn't been a sterling example of airmanship. I've not been leaning, I've not been doing my Frida checks every 10-15 minutes or however often you want to do them. I'm not going to do my bum fitch brakes, undercarriage flaps, all that kind of thing. And I'm having a glass of wine. It's very naughty. So, apologies for the poor airmanship, but you get the general idea. I will leave you to be as fastidious as you want when simulating real-world operations. And I'm also looking for a good Cessna 172. Actually, I'm gonna maybe the Rep one. What's if you've got an idea for a good Cessna 172 add-on, post it in the chat. Also, I'll need a Caravan. I really like the Caravan, but I'll probably go Carenado for that. I guess that's available for X-Plane. And I've got my trusty AC500, which will be the workhorse of my little fleet while I'm testing AirHauler with it. But I will pick up the 737 Zevo and see how we get on there. Okay, so just looking out the back window, there's the airport. It's a lovely evening in Dundee. We could listen to the ATIS just to see what's going on.
Echo, Golf, Papa, November, airport information, Echo 1920, Zulu, weather, wind 262 at 16, visibility 10,000, sky condition, few clouds at 4,000, temperature 16, dew point 9, QNH 1029, advise on initial contact, you have information, Echo.
Okay,
Echo.
just turn that off. There we go. That's one thing I haven't been doing is setting the QNH properly. Not that it's really that important because we're flying visually, so we don't really need to worry too much about it. And we're not interacting with any ATC, so we don't need to worry about separating or reporting accurately. But obviously in the real world, you would be setting that altimeter subscale properly and reading it back like a good little soldier. Just a little left-hander here. Now we don't want to go too crazy on maneuvers when we've got packs on board. If we get over 30 degrees bank or maybe 15 degrees, 20 degrees pitch, we will spook the packs. Also, if we get some G-forces in there, that will spook the packs too, and they do not like it. I hate negative G myself, and I'm not that good with positive G. I remember when I was flight training in America, the infamous Ormond Beach, the guy who owned it took me up for a lesson in the 172 Aerobat, and we pulled 4.5 G on a spin recovery, and I did not enjoy that. I didn't enjoy the negative G, and I didn't enjoy the positive G either. I actually had the whole kind of black tunnel thing, which was pretty spooky. But it was interesting to do. Great guy, totally crazy, but you know, hey, he passed me, so that's the main thing. Okay, so here we go, on approach now, a little bit high as usual because we're in a light single. We don't need to pay much attention to the PAPI. We'll just land where we want. To back off the power a little bit because we want to put some flat down probably, or we do it flatless. Again, this is quite a fast Cessna. They're usually a lot slower than this. Yep, thanks for the notes about the Soloy, Uncle Joe. I will try that one. And I'm going to give the rep a go. I need to get the rep anyway because people are having issues with it, so I need it for troubleshooting. So we'll see how we get on. Here comes the speed into the white arc, so I'm going to take a couple of stages flat. Why not? Because I can. Just 20. 20 flaps should do it. Just trim that out to suit. McConnell, I've not found a workaround for malware bytes just yet. I don't know what it's doing. It's blocking the UDP ports. I will have a look into it and see what I can do. Okay, there's the AirHauler GPWS minimums call out. That's where you get the 500 minimums, 50, 40, 30. You can turn that off in options, by the way, if you have an add-on that already does GPWS, but it's just for everyone who doesn't, like this little Cessna. It's quite a useful little thing. Feel free to turn it off in options if you don't want it. There we go, did a little bit of a crab on, nothing crazy. Yesterday was great fun, it was like 20-30 knots, and I was side on the entire time. A little bit more power. Okay, we're definitely going to make the airfield now, which is always nice. Don't want to get too low and slow with the packs on board.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
There we go. Okay again. Well, not my best, not my worst. I find it's much harder to land in X-plane than it is in flight. So maybe I'm just used to the flight model more in FXX. But yeah, I'm still getting my head around X-plane. Whoops, ran over a little bit there. Sorry again. I need to adjust my braking and rudder curves. But nobody saw that. Don't worry, we'll be fine. So we'll just taxi back round in front of the Charlie, where we pay our fees, to the FBO. There's a Royal flight in by the look of it. Nice little 146 was similar. Nice to see. This is a pretty good model of Dundee Airport. Actually, it is pretty much accurate. There are some chairs and tables outside the FBO which they don't have in this one, but you know, aside from that, it's all right. So just down here, this is Tayside, where we get all our maintenance on our 172 done, which is right this hangar just here behind the FBO, which is the one with the stairs there. It's not really like that in real life, but you get an idea. So we'll just stop here. I think it's a nice, easy place to stop, and we can always push up the grass, and we'll shut down. And there we go. Yeah, JK, I'm not using the Vulcan beta just yet. This is on 1.41. There we go. AirHauler's disembarking the passengers, which is good. We've brought them to the right location, so I can get back to AirHauler and finish off the job. But yep, it works fine in Vulcan. I just don't have it installed on this machine. I'm going to do that, but it's 40 gig to download. I didn't have time to do it before the stream tonight. Okay, so back we go to AirHauler. Again, if you just joined recently, I am working on letting you leave the sim open and you can just load straight back into it. For now, the preferred route is to quit X-Plane and go back to AirHauler. Okay, and there we go. Here's our little message here. It was off to the side because I'm actually on an ultra wide here and you're only seeing half of it, so that's why things appear over there. So here we go. Passenger flight completed, 218, satisfaction 93%. There we go. So they're happy. Everyone's happy, and we passed the job. There we go. Get a little shout out. Passengers disembarked. Close X-Plane. There we go. And at this point, if we had any cargo on board, if we'd taken a side load for something, another job, or some commodities we wanted to sell, or stuff we wanted to bring back to our factories, we could unload them here. And again, we can load some more fuel on if we want, or we can do that next flight. Here we go. Nicholas, how do you know when there's update for AH2? You will get, when you start AH2, you'll get a message saying a new update exists. That's only for main updates. There is currently a hotfix available at ah2.justflight.com in the forums. Go into the X-Plane bug forum, and up at the top there's a sticky topic with hotfix 1. But in general, yes, you will get a message along with patch notes when you are starting AirHauler, if there's a new version. There we go. There's a few more people at Dundee, which is quite nice. And 90 people flying in AirHauler at the moment across all the sims, which is good. Just quickly, JK, yeah, different between the P3D and XP versions are that you don't see your fleet in the simulator, which I've not implemented into X-Plane version yet. You don't get John Allard's charts. He's got airport charts, which appear inside AirHauler. But those charts aren't relevant for XP because they're different sets of charts, obviously. And you don't get the paint shop where you can change liveries, but that will be coming back as well. So the plan is to get the AI back in and also give you the paint shop. For now, you just load X-Plane and choose the livery you want. AirHauler won't mind, but you will be able to preset the livery coming forward shortly. Okay. So we can finish flight monitoring. Look at our performance. It was okay. There we go. Flight time 27 minutes, not that long. There we go. Again, no landing damage, so we don't have anything to repair. And we can finish flight monitoring, and we're back at Dundee. Here we are. So again, from here, we can go back into our overview map and pick another job. You know, there's a job over to here, up to Loch Lomond Seaplanes. Don't want to do that one, probably get wet. But you know, there's jobs down to Newcastle, down to Full Sutton. Slightly further afield, Leeds, and we've got one over to Isle of Man as well, which we could do, which is for livestock. That's not a bad job. It wouldn't fit all that in the Cessna though. There we go. Uncle Joe, the purpose of the paint shop is really it just picks the livery that the aircraft starts up in inside the flight sim. That's all it does. If in FSX P3D, you can change the paint job of aircraft in your fleet, so when you start the sim, it loads the appropriate paint job, that's all. But you can do that manually in X-Plane for now. You know. Thanks, Exterminator. Yeah, there's been a couple of hiccups. Obviously, no plan survived contact with the enemy, and you know, although we did test it, we had a group of about 20 testers on board. They didn't have quite the variation of add-ons and PC configurations, antivirus, firewalls that the general public do. Hopefully with hotfix 1 we're on top of most of it now. I think I've certainly cleared most of them up. But we'll just keep plugging away, and we'll get a new update out next week, and it'll be incremental updates every couple of days or every week, while we just tidy them up, and it should get a lot more stable over time. Unfortunately, it's just me. There's not a huge 500-person development house with 10,000 testers, so there's always a little bit of rough running at the start until we get it nicely leaned out, if you'll pardon the aviation parlance. Okay, so a little quick one just before we go. I'm going to buy a couple of aircraft and show you how to schedule a PAX route, in case people haven't done that before. While we're there, Rico, yeah, in a small plane, if you can only carry a partial load, you don't get paid till you've delivered the whole job. Okay, so if I look at one of these ones here, 893 for sun cream, right? If I want to go and deliver that and accept that job, there's my sun cream. I've got 893. Now I can't fit that on my Cessna. If I go to my fleet and do cargo loading from my Cessna 172, maybe I'm going to take a lot more fuel this time because it's a much longer way. I'm going to fill it full. Let's fill it full of fuel. That's going to reduce the amount of available cargo capacity that I have on board the aircraft. So when I come to load cargo, I can only load 534 on it, and even that is going to take me over a little bit. So there's still going to be 358 to load. So you can drop that off, come back, and get more again. Yeah. So you can split them. You don't have to do it all in one big flight. You can take half of it, come back, get the rest, and take it down. But you don't get paid until all of the cargo has been delivered, because that's how the real world works. AirHauler 2 is not the real world, but you do the job, you get paid, keep flying. So you only get the money at the end of the job. Okay, now let's just quickly buy a couple of aircraft, and I'll show you how to schedule some routes. So let's go and buy some of my lovely Aero Commanders that we've got here. We can get them from the marketplace. We're just going to buy them new. So we'll go into our Aero Commander. We'll buy the aircraft rather than lease it. We'll just buy it. The 731,000, and we've got 2.84 million again. I am in the way for that one, so you won't. You can't really see that. If I move myself into the middle, you might. There we go. I'll just move into the middle here, which would be easier. Okay, so down in the bottom left, we can see here 2.854 million I've got, and that's because, remember, I did the Easy Company, cashed in the 737, and got a load of cash, and I can buy whatever I want. So let's get a couple of Aero Commanders. We're going to buy them for the company, and we're going to buy them as PAX aircraft and put it in Dundee. There we go, and we get to decide what we're going. Now this is just an executive jet charter service, so I mean we could go for 4 class and then put everyone in first. When you're doing this, the higher up you go, the less PAX you get, because the seats take more space. So in first class economy, we'll get 5, but if we go totally executive, we'll only get 4. That's the same for a 737. If you buy a 737, you might get 300 or 200 on it. But then if you make it executive class only, you'll get many less seats, because the executive and business class seats are bigger, so it will reduce it down. Yeah. Marcella, yeah, you can let the AI take the rest of the load if you can, or you can send them off first, and then you can follow up with the final load. The good thing about doing that is you get the credit for the job then, and you get maximum rep. If the AI pilot completes the job, you'll get less rep, because they only get like 0.2 rep for doing it. You'll get a whole 1% rep point. So best to send the AI pilot off first, and then you follow up with the proper load. Yeah. Thanks, JK. Good to see you. Catch you on the next stream, hopefully. So let's just buy this, and then we'll schedule a PAX route, and we'll show you how to do it. And we'll buy another one while we're at it. Company, passenger, Dundee, and this one's just going to be a standard economy with 5 seats. And there we go. So now in our fleet, we've got 2 Aero Commanders and our 172. So now we've got a bit of a fleet. We can go into our routes here, and we can schedule some routes. So maybe we want to create a new route So we can do add sector. We can choose an aircraft from our list. Here we go. Our AC500. I need to refresh it just to get them to show up. But here's our AC500. And we can add this in. It's going to be departing from EGPN. Now, it's important when you're scheduling the PAX routes that the destinations and starts line up. They have to be a full chain. You can't have a flight from Aberdeen to Glasgow, then Vienna to Manchester. You've got to do Aberdeen, Glasgow, Glasgow, Vienna, Vienna, Manchester. Yeah. So we're going to depart from Dundee in this instance, and we're going to go to, well, let's go to Vienna. Why not? Or let's go to Vienna. It's not Vienna, is it? We'll go to, where will we go? Let's not go to Vienna. Let's go to Amsterdam. So AMS. So Schiphol. Oh, it's not Schiphol in X-Plane, is it? EHAM. There we go. Schiphol. There we are. So we're going to go from Dundee to Schiphol, and then we can pick the pricing that we want to set up here. This only has 4 business class seats, so we can set some values here. Now, this value here, I could set it to 6,000, but no one's going to buy a ticket for that. So what it's handy to do is to do an ad hoc flight first to get a feel for how much you'd actually be able to sell, and then sell it. So we'll go for about £500 a ticket, which isn't bad, first class, over to, well, maybe a little bit steep, maybe 400, over to Amsterdam. And when are we going to depart? We're going to depart Monday, let's say at 9 a.m. There we go. So you can set up when you want the flight to go, and this will fire every week. Yeah, so you'll have it each week. This is a repeating cycle. It's best when you're planning these jobs to start on Monday and plan forward from that, rather than plan in the middle or end of the week and try and have to fill ones in behind them. It's easier to go from the first day of the week and plan forward. Whatever you plan, if it's within 24 hours or 48 hours, it won't be flowing. So if you plan something for Monday on Sunday night, like I'm doing now, well, Monday, I keep forgetting it's Monday, it won't fly, and that's just to stop people scheduling flights, immediately deleting them and rescheduling them again. It wouldn't make any sense. So it might be the next week before it fires if it's within 2 days from when you actually planned it. But today, on Monday, anything I plan for Wednesday or Thursday will fly. But we can book that in, and that's our first sector. So now we can add another job for this one. We can do add after. We're going to go from Schiphol, and then maybe we want to go from Schiphol to Manchester. Manchester International, EGCC. And we're going to come back. You know, this AirHauler has already said, okay, well, you know, by the time you get turned around, it'll be 12:52 minimum before you can go. So maybe we'll go 13:22. It gives a longer turnaround. And again, we can preset prices, all that kind of stuff, and add sectors. Okay, now these are red at the moment because I don't have any crew for them. Yeah, if we hire some crew, we can assign them to the captain and the FO positions, and then that will let the jobs fly. They won't fly without crew. So that's why they're currently red. I'm just going to move myself out of the way a little bit so you can see this. Okay, so there they are. So if we went and hired some pilots, again from the marketplace, we can get some crew, and we're looking for people who are type rated on AC500. So this guy is, so we can hire him and put him in Dundee, and then we can look for another one, and we're looking for someone who's got an AC500 type rating. This guy does. He's ATPL, so he spends every waking minute thinking about music. Strong facility. Oh, very good. He likes meeting new people, so he'll be good in our company. So let's hire him. Okay, now I've got 2 pilots on my roster that I can use for passenger flights. So if we go back to our routes, now we can assign crew. And AirHauler is going to tell us how many crews we require for a schedule. Now, crew have a GT day, which is 8 hours long, and then they need to have the rest of the time off. So if you're planning long flights or international flights, you're going to have multiple crew. If it's over 7 hours, then you can, you'll need to carry more than 1 crew. You'll need to carry a standby pilot, so you'll have a captain an FO and a second officer as well to do the boring en route stuff while the captain and the FO are getting some shut-eye if you're on a long international flight over to Singapore or something like that. Chris, care about way to filter the pilot list? Yes, you can. If I just jump back to it, if we go back to Marketplace Crew, you can order it here, but if you want to as well, you could do auto filter row, right click on here, show auto filter, and then you could type in CPL, for example. You'd only get the ones that are CPL, yeah, or third officer. So there's a filter built into the grid. All the grids in AirHauler are Dev Express grids. You can right click on them and use filtering or hide auto filter to do it. No, Uncle Joe, the 8-hour limit does not include turnaround time. Well, it does, actually does, if the crew are flying it. Once they're finished, if the aircraft then gets turned around, they don't have to stay with it. But yes, it will, if they fly in at 9 in the morning, they don't fly out till 2, that period, meantime, will be counted as part of their duty day because they're effectively on the job. Okay, so back to our routes. All of these screens in AirHauler, you can leave open. You'll see them stacking up at the top here, and then you can swap between them. You don't need to close one off and go to another one. You can just pick whichever one you want. So we need to assign a crew for this because we don't have one. That's why these are red. Right click assign crew. It'll tell us, or use the assign crews and pilot button up at the right hand side here. Oh, Grisk. No, but good suggestion. I shall add it to the list. Type rating search for AI. I'll add that in, and it should appear in an AirHauler near you shortly. So we need one crew for the schedule. We only need a captain. This is quite a light aircraft. It's not 737, so it only requires one pilot. Again, this is not taken from the real world or the aircraft config because it's not in the aircraft config. This is purely based on MTOW, maximum takeoff weight for the aircraft, above a certain threshold, which is, when you're getting into a heavy twin, that's when you'll need 2 pilots, or like a captain and a first officer. And then once you get up to the 737, 747, if the flight's long enough, you will need a second and a cruise. But for this one, it's quite a light aircraft, so we just need one pilot. It's okay for single pilot ops effectively. So we're going to assign Adam Collins to this, and he's going to do those 2 flights. So that's fine. It's within his duty day. He can easily do the 9 and then the one here. Now, if I assign another one, so we're going to go from EGCC. So maybe from Manchester, we're going to go to Aberdeen. It's an interesting kind of routing, but let's do it. And we're going to, let's leave a lot later. So let's do this at maybe like 9 o'clock at night. Now this time, when I do assign crews and pilots, I'm going to need 2 crews because that late flight is after 9 o'clock. So we're into Adam Collins' duty day will have run out by then. So we're going to need 2. So this time we're going to have captain, and then we're going to have Jaden as the captain on the second leg. So you'll see here Adam Collins is going to do these first 2 sectors, and then Jaden's going to take over. Sinastri, you don't need to. Crews automatically position. Yeah. You don't need to have them move around. You don't need to load them on board or carry them as packs, like positioning. They just automatically get there. It's far too. If I implement something like that, it turns AirHauler into crew roster simulator, which maybe there's a market for. But it's just too complicated. And then you have things like, well, are they traveling? Are they in hotels? How are they going to get there? Well, expenses. How much is that going to cost? It just becomes a nonsense. So it's easier just to say that they get there. You don't need to worry how they get there. They get there, and they'll fly the flight for you as long as you have the sufficient crew to do it. Yeah, just assume they're lazing around in the airport bar meantime. Okay, so that will set up and fly. So next week, next Monday, the AI pilots will go and do these jobs for us. Yeah, in the same way, if we hired another one, if we go back to Marketplace, get some crew. Again, we could find someone who's AC 500 rated. If there is one, a good shout on having the search function. I'm definitely going to implement that. Here's one here, CPL, Eve. She likes football and visiting new places. Doesn't say where she's from, but never mind. Let's hire her. So we've got Eve now. She's in Dundee. Now we can assign jobs to her. So if we go back to our overview map for Dundee, and we find a little job that she could do, and then the AC 500's got a lot more space on it, so you know, she could do a larger job. But we'll maybe just give her some shrimp. Let's give her some shrimp. Shrimp out to Full Sutton. Never been to Full Sutton. I'm sure it's a lovely place, but let's deliver some shrimp there. Or actually, if we order this by 2 a KO, we can see if there's a couple. So here's 2 flights here that are going to go to the Isle of Man. So let's assign them both. So she can do herbal remedies, so we can assign that to AI. Oh, of course, I don't have a cargo aircraft. We can do it because I set up my other one as packs. Let's change that one over. So let's get my AC 500. Oh, that's why. Sorry, yeah. Oh, we're not using this one. Let's change this one over to a cargo. So I'm going to swap it from passenger to cargo config. I'm going to rip all the seats out and change the config. Uncle Joe, they're just random names. They're not people I know. There are a couple that I do know, a couple of combinations, but they're just random. So we've got our cargo AC 500 now. I can change the configuration back to packs if I wanted to, but I've made it cargo, so now she can use that for the job. So we can go to our sun cream. That's not what we want, is it? Where's our map? Livestock, that's what we want. We want herbal remedies and livestock. So let's assign that to the AI. We've got our AC 500 cargo that's not doing anything. And Eve Cook, she can fly it. And there we go, and that gets assigned. And then the livestock as well, we can assign that to the AC 500. And we know that Eve's looking at it. So if we go and have a look in our company information in pilots and see what Eve's up to, we can see she's a CPL rank 4. She can only fly things up to 10,000 pounds maximum takeoff weight. As she ranks up, she can fly bigger aircraft. And then we can see what she's up to. So she's got these 2 jobs to do, which she'll go and get started with. And you'll see there she's already started loading the cargo. She's quite efficient. That should finish about 21:54 because it is a reasonable amount of cargo. Then she'll load the herbal remedies and then she'll fly south. So if we use this company next time I do a stream, we may or may not, we should have seen these fly both on the cargo jobs and the packs flights as well. Yeah. Okay. One last thing before we finish up for the night, because that'll be 2.5 hours. And I need to go and eat. Any of these cargo flights, or these packs flights, you can fly them rather than the AI whenever you want. So rather than wait for the AI to do these, you can click on one and do fly sector self, and this will fly it for you, or it will let you fly it. Yeah, so it's exactly like doing an ad hoc packs flight, but you get to fly it. When you're finished, it marks this as flown. So rather than pending, it's flown, and when the AI come to fly it, they'll skip it because you've already done it. So you can fly these ahead of time if you want to prevent the AI doing it. So if you wanted to, I could spend the rest of the night flying these 3 flights, and then when the schedule comes around on Monday, they've already been done, and they'll just go to complete it afterwards. So you can fly your own PAX schedule flights, and there's no restriction on that, because it would be really annoying as a player if you could only fly that flight at 13:22 on Monday UTC. So you can fly these anytime you want, and your performance is credited against that flight entry. So when it comes around, you will get credit for it, and the AI won't fly it. It will use your performance instead. Okay, so that's how to do passengers flights. You can schedule them in, or you can do an ad hoc flight and just fly whatever you want. You'll notice when I do an ad hoc now, the AC 500s aren't there. That's because they are busy. They are being used on these passenger flights, and as soon as you mark a aircraft against a pack schedule, it's taken out of circulation, and you can only use it for that. You can't use it for anything else. Grisk, AirHauler will do it for you if you are not using network mode. If you're using network mode, you have to set the time for the sim yourself. But it works exactly the same as, I'm not sure if you were here when we did the pack flight earlier. If I do fly sector self, I can set the time. So I'm going to set to take off 10 minutes before takeoff, and AirHauler will explain up for me at the right time. Okay. Okay, so I guess that's pretty much it for today. Hope that was fun and enjoyable. It worked, which is a miracle, and there were no massive gotchas. Hopefully the quality was all right. I'll review the stream. I will download it or upload it. I'm recording it as well, so I'll upload it onto YouTube, into the AirHauler YouTube channel, which doesn't exist yet, but it will shortly, and you'll be able to review it there. Any issues, queries, things like that, please do feel free to go to the AirHauler 2 forums, which are AH2 Alpha Hotel 2.justflight.com, and feel free to get in touch. Happy to get any positive criticism, negative criticism, feature requests. Always like feature requests. And also, if you're having any issues, please do post in the forums or on Facebook, but the forums are much preferred, and we'll ensure that we get you sorted out. As I say, it's just out. There are a few teething troubles just because people's configurations, largely to do with antivirus software, to be perfectly honest, and port blocking. But we are getting through those, and we'll get to the bottom of it eventually. But just make sure and tell us you're having a problem, and we'll be able to help. So thanks very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and catch you next time.